Hello, Chris from Channel X TV here. Delighted to be joined today, all the way from Austin in the US, by Lance from BigCommerce. So, welcome, Lance. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
So, for those that don't know you, just tell us a little bit about who you are and your role at BigCommerce.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lance Owide. I'm the general manager of B2B here at BigCommerce. BigCommerce, for those who aren't familiar, we're a SaaS e-commerce platform servicing 60 plus thousand merchants, helping them sell online. And for those who aren't familiar with B2B, that's manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, and suppliers. And I'm responsible for the strategy and execution of our platform for servicing those merchants. So B2B specific features and functionalities that help those merchants that are selling to other businesses do that successfully and grow online.
And B2B has really grown in sort of awareness over the last few years. I'm thinking there are so many businesses, like you said, that are manufacturers that have always been used in a sort of offline world of selling to maybe wholesalers, maybe retailers, maybe other businesses. But even relatively small SMEs nowadays are starting to get business customers where they perhaps have got one price for consumers, but they know businesses buy in bulk and have a different pricing scheme. So, can you tell us just a little bit about how BigCommerce can help with this, and how a retailer or a manufacturer can set up their B2B strategy on BigCommerce?
Yeah, for sure. Exactly like you're saying, we're seeing a huge trend in B2B moving online. Often we have, pure B2B businesses that have been doing offline business for years. Roughly today, about 20% of all B2B transactions occur online. That means 80% happen offline, maybe over the phone, even over fax still today. And what we're seeing is that those purchases are slowly but surely, and actually very quickly, moving online. Within the next 5 years, that percentage of online transactions is going to grow by 7% or higher. That's about $1 trillion coming online here in the US. That's a big, chunky number. But it's not just manufacturers and distributors that are moving online or moving their B2B business online. It's also the retailers. It's also the B2C businesses that have a wholesale business and maybe have had a wholesale business for a while, where they're selling, like you said, to other suppliers or to other businesses, and they've often had bespoke pricing. They agree bulk discounting, or maybe even they've had contracted pricing, very specific pricing for those specific customers. And what we're seeing is those businesses are also bringing those transactions online, and they're doing it for a number of different reasons. Firstly, the buyers want it. If I'm a buyer, I want as frictionless and seamless a buying journey as possible. Now, I'm buying on behalf of my business. When I'm buying on behalf of my business, the thing that I care about most, my number one KPI, if you will, is purchasing efficiency. I want this purchase to be efficient because I want to complete the purchase and move on to the next task of my day, so I can, get back to walking my dog or time with the kids or whatever it might be. But e-commerce also has a number of benefits for the business too. Very often those businesses, retailers who have a wholesale channel are building that wholesale channel using a sales team, right? They have a sales team in the field sales, who are going out, speaking to potential buyers, showing them the products, etc. Now, today, a lot of those processes may be happening manually. So field sales go out, they're speaking to a potential customer. Then when that customer wants to place an order, where do they go? Well, they pick up the phone to speak to the sales team. That's not scalable. It's not efficient. And then when they've placed the order, where do they go to get tracking updates on shipment or to reorder? And businesses are realizing that they can move these processes, what we call these manual processes, into self-serve online processes, or self-serve events, as we call them here at BigCommerce. And we move them online and free up the sales team to focus just purely on finding those new customers, really being in the field and selling, rather than the kind of manual data entry. And so here at BigCommerce, we built a suite of tools we call B2B Edition, which brings all of the features and functionality needed to service wholesale buyers online. We built that right into the platform. And so a merchant who is thinking about building a wholesale channel, or maybe already has one, can seamlessly manage both their direct to consumer, their retail business on BigCommerce, as well as that B2B business, where, like you said, they might have different pricing for different customers, or even different catalogs for different customers. Maybe they issue quotes, and they've got invoices to pay. They can do all of that through a BigCommerce instance.
And talking of invoices, some exciting news out today. I believe you've got a new invoice portal coming out. Can you, for those that haven't seen any press releases yet, can you spill the beans and let us know what's happening, please?
Yeah, sure. So invoicing is an interesting feature of B2B purchasing. The majority of purchases in B2B made by businesses are not paid for at the time of purchase. They are paid for using terms. What do I mean by that? I mean that the purchaser, the buyer, has 30, 60, 45 days to pay. So at the point that they actually place the order, there are no funds being transferred. And what happens is the merchant issues an invoice that says you have 30 days to pay, and here's the amount that you're going to pay in that time frame. Now, traditionally, that invoice has been paid offline, outside of the traditional buyer workflow. That could be.
So I think it's worth pointing out as well that B2B purchasing, you've probably got a purchaser paying, ordering the goods, but a totally different department paying the invoices.
Spot on, exactly. It can often be a completely different, depending, of course, on the size of the business, a completely different person, completely different team that are managing that invoice payment when it comes due, and it often sits maybe on a separate invoice portal that isn't part of the e-commerce journey, that's been built on top of an ERP that then the merchant has to manage and upkeep, or maybe it's completely offline. You know, it could be I have to phone up the finance department of the merchant where I made my purchase and make that payment, or maybe I'm even mailing in a check. That happens a lot here in the US still, quite incredibly. And so with our brand new invoice, what we are doing is pulling that invoice payment into the buyer workflow, into the buyer journey. We believe that it should be seamless and frictionless, not just to purchase a product, but then to also pay for that product. And so we, with our new invoice portal, are allowing merchants to pull that invoice payment function feature into their e-commerce site. And so me now as a buyer, I purchase maybe through e-commerce or maybe by speaking to a sales team, but to pay that invoice, I can then come online into the e-commerce site and make that payment there and then. Much more streamlined, much more efficient. You know, one of our merchants, Doc Lane, who was one of the first to implement the brand new invoice portal in the beta phase, as we would call it, before this announcement today, they said 60% of their buyers wait the 30 days to make a payment and then send them a check. Right, that is not great for their cash flow. It is not a great workflow. And actually, their buyers don't love it either, because the buyers have to remember to send the check. It's a manual process that they have to go through. And so when Doc Lane implemented our brand new invoice portal, they saw a considerable improvement in the terms on which their buyers are paying, because now it's built right into their e-commerce site, making it much easier to pay. So benefits for the buyer in terms of the ease with which they can make those payments, and for the merchant because they will see improved payment terms, improved speed of payment from their buyers.
And I guess for a lot of businesses, they'll be making multiple purchases throughout the month, but accountants they tend to like sort of 30 days end of month payments. So they'll make all of the payments for that supplier on one day at the end of the month. And with the new invoice portal, can they just make one payment to settle their entire account, or do they have to go in and settle each individual invoice one at a time?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great point. And you're right. And it's regardless of where that transaction happened, maybe you're a regional manager and you're managing payments for a suite of stores that are making purchases in a particular region, and it comes to the end of the month and you're going to pay all of those invoices off at once. That's exactly how we have built the invoice portal to service those workflows. And so the invoice portal in BigCommerce will take the invoice that was built in the ERP, display it online, so you can actually see the legal document that was produced, that legal invoice that was produced, maybe in another system outside of BigCommerce, in something like an ERP, maybe a Microsoft Dynamics or a NetSuite or an Epicor or a system like that, and then allow the buyer or the procurement team, whoever is making the payment, the finance team, to select the invoices that they want to pay, the amount that they want to pay, and then make a payment across all of them, exactly like you said, because I'm coming in and I'm making multiple invoice payments at the same time. And one of the other really neat features that we've built into the portal is a credit limit feature. So if I'm a buyer, maybe
I was going to ask about this, because lots of companies, they keep placing the orders and it's meant to be, say, 30-day credit terms, but they order on the 20th of the month and they think, 30 days, not pay at the end of this month. The end of next month, it's getting up to 40, 50 days. How does the credit terms work?
Yeah, exactly. So in big, bold letters in the portal that we've built, it will tell you the number of days you have left to pay, and it will tell you if you are then overdue. But at the merchant's discretion, and it's important, it is at the merchant's discretion, they can choose to halt the ability of a buyer to make a purchase on terms if they have breached a credit limit that has been pre-agreed. Now, of course, a merchant may say, this buyer is allowed to go over that credit limit. I just want to make them aware that they are breaching this.
Yeah.
They're good for it. We've been great. They've been a great customer for 10 years. I would never stop them making a purchase. But in some instances, especially where businesses may be growing and you have new customers that have signed up for a business account on your e-commerce site, which is one of the key reasons of moving into e-commerce, to expand the number of merchants, or the number of buyers that you can service. For new customers, you may want to put a hard and fast limit. You have $10,000 that you can purchase on 30-day terms. Once you hit that limit, there's no more purchasing on terms. Either pay one of your invoices, pay them down, or pay with a credit card or a bank transfer, but we're not going to let you pay on terms anymore.
Yeah, and I really like this flexibility, because there are so many times that you've got a customer that you just know they will always pay at the end of the next month, even if that's outside their terms, but they always pay on time, and you just want to let them keep buying, because you know that hopefully not the check's coming in, but the online payment's going to come in.
Exactly. You don't want to freeze that buyer out, but of course you want the flexibility to potentially be able to do that, especially where you've got new customers that have recently become business customers to you, and you may not have purchasing history that makes you comfortable, or payment history that makes you comfortable offering those terms over a preset credit limit.
So this is really interesting, especially coming on top of the recent multi-storefront announcement, where you can effectively have one website for consumers and one for B2B, and perhaps a third website with a different set of pricing and product for, say, government purchases, whether it be local government, schools, hospitals, depending on the industry. So a lot going on with BigCommerce. But for those that want to start using the new invoice portal on BigCommerce, where do they go to find out more?
Yeah, sure. Just before I get into that, I really want to touch on that multi-storefront point that you just made, because it's such a key use case. When we think about businesses today, retail, wholesale, manufacturing, distribution, they're all trying to grow, and we're seeing lots of consolidation as well. We're seeing M&A in this space, and as that happens, businesses want to consolidate their systems, but grow the channels on which they are selling. And BigCommerce is built to support that use case. You mentioned multi-storefront. For those who aren't familiar with that, it's the ability to have one BigCommerce backend, one e-commerce backend, power multiple storefronts. So integrate your systems. That could be an order management system, an ERP. It could be a CRM if you're a manufacturer and distributor managing relationship with clients. Integrate that once into your e-commerce system and power multiple storefronts. And it's great for use cases like multi-region, where in different regions you want to have different experiences, or those doing B2B retail and B2C, and they want to have both a wholesale and a direct-to-consumer channel. Or for those who have multiple brands, I've maybe purchased a new brand recently, or I'm thinking about testing and learning a new brand, and I want to spin up a site where I can sell those new products. We have some fantastic example of these. So Beerbat here in the US, they sell sports paraphernalia, and they were spinning up a new brand, and they wanted to do that on BigCommerce with a new storefront. And it was easy and simple for them to spin up that storefront, load the products, and then start selling. And to the B2B and B2C example, I'm going to pick one of our great merchants, Barbecues Galore. You can sort of guess what they sell. They're based out in APAC. They sell outdoor equipment, and they wanted to grow their business. They're looking to grow the business. They want to improve revenues, increase revenue. And they wanted to do that by expanding their wholesale channel, by growing their wholesale channel, and by expanding out of Australia, which is their home base, and into New Zealand. And they did that by launching a wholesale site in Australia, a wholesale site in New Zealand, and a B2C site in New Zealand. And they did all of that in 3 months. That's how easy it was for them to spin that up on BigCommerce and to start growing revenue, proving the ROI on those new channels. So I wanted to double click on that because I think it's such an important use case for businesses who want to grow their business, which is everyone. Everyone is looking to grow revenue at what is a reasonably tough time in the economy.
Yeah, and I think that there's so many instances you could never really prepare for. I mean, during the pandemic, for example, there were so many businesses that suddenly diverted to, instead of making perfume, making hand sanitizer, or they had industrial PPE which qualified for medical PPE, and suddenly wanted to sell to a totally different audience, and probably a different storefront would have been ideal for that. But
exactly. It's the speed with which you can spin up that store and take advantage of the market opportunity. The business owners are entrepreneurs, and we want to enable them to take advantage of those opportunities as quickly as possible when they spot them.
And moving back to my other question, Lance, but for people that want to find out more about the Invoice portal today, where can they go for more details?
Yeah, so to learn more about BigCommerce, you can head to BigCommerce.com. There you'll find information about both our offering for retail merchants, B2C, and our offering for B2B merchants, wholesalers, distributors, and manufacturers.
Amazing. Lance, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chris. Great chatting to you today.